What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Iron Culture presented by Mass. This one, I am not joined by the wonderful Dr. Trexler, which is only fair because I have abandoned the cult multiple times in pursuit of being naked on stage in very dark coloring that you have to remove before you go out in public in 2025 as a white dude like myself, or you could be mistaken for doing something very inappropriate. But I've been holding it down for bodybuilding while Trex has been holding it down for Iron Culture. So now I'm returning the favor. And I am very happy to be joined by an awesome guest who I will introduce just in 1 second. But for all of you listeners, if you could do us the favor of just making sure that you smash that like, you smash that subscribe, you smash that follow, you give us 5 stars. And also, if you really want to be that top tier supporter of the show, of course, check out Mass Research Review. We've got an awesome issue that just came out on the 1st of November. And I say that because I'm a narcissist, because I was on the cover. No, but in all seriousness, I had a really fun time kind of reverse engineering what I do as a coach and also what I've done in the last few seasons of competing, of taking an auto-regulated approach to dieting and really trying to show both the art and the science of it in the latest issue of Mass. So if you want to check that out, that's something that the members are reading right now. And it's got a really good insight of not only my personal experience, but also the research supporting how one does go about doing that and the way you can coach and learn how to do it on your own in a far faster way than the 20 years it took me to really figure out how to do it, or the better part of that. Additionally, make sure you go check out our good friends over at Elite FTS. We've got a great code, and everything, or almost everything that they have, you can get at a discount using the code MRR10. That's Mass Research Review 10 to help you remember it. And big shout out to Dave Tate and supporting us and doing the great work they do. So with that housekeeping out of the way, I want to welcome 2024 Vice Champion in the middleweight division, placing second to arguably the most well-lauded WBF champion, Babacar Niang, who is, I think, the only bodybuilder to have won 3 overall titles. And I will say this, I'm not saying everyone agrees, but I think Oscar Moscat, who we have on, who took second in the middleweights last year, 2024, gave him a much closer run to his money than he even got in the overall. And I will say than he has possibly ever had on stage. And I don't think this battle is over, because I think Oscar is not at his peak. And seeing him in his peak condition against Babacar will be a great sight to behold whenever that does happen in the future. And as a fan of natural bodybuilding and a fan of this gentleman, I am very excited and appreciative of having you on Iron Culture. Welcome, Oscar.
I appreciate the intro. My goodness. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, the pleasure is all mine. And I think, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because Babacar doesn't speak good English, and you're the closest thing. So you're a really good second place option. I'm just kidding. In all seriousness. You get the bridesmaid award. No. In all seriousness, the real reason I wanted to have you on is not just because of your completely inhumanly impressive physique that I think stretches for some people, the credulity of what can be accomplished as a natural bodybuilder, but hopefully for more people, the possibilities of what the human body can achieve. But more so than that, I so much appreciate your perspective as an athlete. And I think it's something that people would possibly be surprised that I connect with on a personal level, even though some things that you might state and I might state could appear to be polar opposites, but I think they come from different expressions of the same thing. So that is what I want to talk about today. But of course, I also want to make sure that a lot of the Iron Culture followers who are not familiar with you get a good introduction to who you are. I will say that, you're a WBF pro bodybuilder. I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong on your history, you turned pro in 2018 the first time. Yeah. And then you stepped away from the sport for a while. We all had, COVID to prevent us from getting on stage for a bit. And then in 2022, I think at the Monster Mash, you got pro status again. And that was a big, at least in terms of the natural bodybuilding community, everyone was like, oh shit, who is this guy? You know, you kind of made your splash. You came in great condition and you displayed one of the most impressive physiques on that stage. And then the next time you competed, was that at Worlds that year, or was it Worlds 2024 in that season?
No, I did Monster Mash for my pro debut 2023.
That's right.
Where I competed against Brian DaCosta, who ended up winning Worlds that year.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2024, I did Worlds for the first time.
Yeah, so the people you've placed second to are pretty good. You know, just a couple of world champions. Yeah.
Believe it or not, and I didn't know this, but someone told me that the decisions between both were between 1 and 2 points.
That does not surprise me at all. And
yeah,
I did not envy the judges in either one of those shows because I think that would have been a very challenging.
Neither do I. Yeah. I was not expecting second to either one. I didn't really have expectations, but hey, whatever. We showed up and we did our thing.
You're damn right you did. So that's kind of my perspective as a bodybuilding fan, but I know you're a lot more than that. If you want, share whatever you feel comfortable with about how you came to be a bodybuilder, your relationship with the sport, and where you've been and where you plan to hopefully go as a natural bodybuilder.
Yeah. I started bodybuilding in 2009, I believe. 2009, 2010, because one of my buddies who I known since forever, since high school, I've always had big arms, always had a decent physique, just because I did martial arts for, I think it was 16, 17 years. And he saw me one time and we worked together for a while. He's like, dude, come to the gym with me one time. I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. And I step into the gym, and on my first day there, I got accused of, I mean, you name it. It was ridiculous. Then he's like, man, you should really consider competing. I'm like, I don't know. This seems stupid. I don't let's just keep going to the gym, whatever. Kept going. And I remember one time I was in the bathroom, because it always happens in the bathroom. There was a gentleman there. He accused me of steroids, and I told him I was natural. And he said, if you were natural, you would compete in a natural show. Like, all right, that sounds cool. Did a natural show. That's 2018 when I won my pro card. And I remember doing the Monster Mash because I wanted to do the most competitive show in WNBF or INBF, because that's whatever. And I remember Nancy Andrews, who used to run that show, weighing me in. And she's like, are you Oscar? I'm like, yeah. And she pulled me aside. She weighed me in. It's like, I think you're going to do well. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I didn't even know who she was. I found out later on. Whatever. I ended up winning my pro card and I was super excited. I actually cried on stage that day because to me, it was more validation. Because I've been hearing it pretty much since day one, since I stepped into the gym. And it was validation. Like I told you guys, I don't use steroids. I've never thought about it. I don't really care for it. And it just kind of overwhelmed me. But yeah, then COVID happened. 2022 comes around. Like, yeah, let's run it again. Got my pro card again. And that one was because I was planning to do Worlds 2023.
Right.
2023 comes around. I get on stage, and I've only done the Monster Mash just because when I have a good experience, I'm super loyal to whatever that experience is. And that's why I still compete WNBF. I have no reason not to.
Right.
2023 comes around. I compete against Brian again. Close battle. Close enough that the judges come back after the results, and they're like, "That was the closest decision we ever had to make." They had me and him posing, just us two, for 5 minutes straight. And I didn't know what that meant, but my best friend Hyro at the time was telling me, I think some people had you first, some people had you second, and they couldn't decide. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I guess that's what it means. Went home. I spent time with my family, and I'm like, I don't really feel it this year. I'm going to skip Worlds. I'm just going to stay home with my family and just kind of let it all die down and whatever. Lo and behold, I find out Brian wins Worlds that year. And I'm like, I want to run it back. Let's just... Yeah, I'm a huge Rocky fan, and I immediately thought Rocky and Drago, and I'm like, we're doing this. Okay. 2024 comes around. I shut off my social media and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to zone in and see how far I can go in terms of dieting. I went as far as I could, did Monster Mash. I won. I'm like, that's not enough. I don't really care for that. And I looked at the stage photos and I'm like, I have to be leaner. And I only had 2 weeks to prep for Worlds. So I'm like, screw it. All out, no carbs, just straight diet, like miserable, 3 hours of cardio every day. I lost 11 pounds in 2 weeks.
Oof.
Yeah, dude, it was disgusting. But we got on stage and I was expecting top 5. I was just there for the experience. And lo and behold, I saw Babacar, I saw all the other guys there, and I'm like, I think I could beat these guys. Like, I'm backstage and I'm looking at these people and I'm like, oh, I think I could beat them. And that's when everything I got rid of the weights that were on me and I'm like, I'm just going to have fun. Who gives a shit? Like, got on stage, I got second. I was actually super happy that I got second because for me, and I don't share like my competitive nature, but it's almost like a shark when it tastes blood. It's like, oh, you guys messed up. You let me get too close. Because next time, like it's going to be my all-time best. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And whether that's enough to beat Babacar or beat whoever's in front, I don't care. But I got so close that on something that I never thought that I would get close on. And that was enough for me to get motivated for 5 straight years. Forget this next year that's coming up. And that's a personal thing that I have. I'll never brag to anybody about that. I'll never, oh, I'm better than you. I don't talk to people like that. I don't think that that's the right way to conduct yourself as a professional. It's an inner thing where I want to beat that 2024 version of myself that I thought was the most difficult journey that I've ever taken. And this next time around, I feel bad for that guy.
Let's go. No, that is awesome perspective. And I think it's one that you thread a needle that I don't think is a needle to you, but it is to others, of trying to balance and find, how do I be my best? And how do I still chase being the best, but put my chips, my cards, and derive motivation from the former, not the latter?
Yeah. Yes.
And I suspect not only is this maybe just part of like who you are and what you've come to as an athlete over time, because correct me if I'm wrong, Oscar, you're 40?
I'm going to be 40 in a couple.
You're going to be 40 in a couple months. Welcome to the peaking years of bodybuilding, my friend. Yeah, as someone who, started lifting at 21, and it took him that whole amount of time again of being alive to actually go, oh shit, I actually look like a bodybuilder, and to be competitive as a pro, on a lower level, but still farther than I ever thought I would take it. I can tell you, man, like the good news about natural bodybuilding is you get a long peak and you get to chill on that mountain, and you don't know when it's going to be over. And it is scary in a good way that you're not at your peak yet. So I'm excited to see it as a fan. And I love the mentality, but like I was saying, you do such a good job, whether it's due to your maturity as a person, your background in martial arts. You seem to have a perspective that a lot of others struggle with. So I think I told you this before we started recording. In many ways, I think it's also challenging for people with the level of talent you have for bodybuilding to develop this, because a lot of the times they come out of the gate and they just win, and they don't know really what that journey looks like. But I think, again, because you had that background, maybe that's helped you get there. But when I'm done articulating myself, I'd love to hear it from your perspective, of course. But for me, I think powerlifting is a really good parallel, because much earlier in my career than bodybuilding did I realize I'm only going to take it so far in powerlifting. And the sport has only kept elevating and elevating and elevating and elevating. But very early on, I had my pre-social media, bubble popped in coaching Bryce Lewis and thinking, oh, like, I'm deadlifting 500 pounds back when that meant something. And then, he's in his newbie gains deadlifting over 600. And then, I realized, oh, this is what talent looks like for powerlifting. And I realized at some point in the 20 teens, like, man, if I was on every single drug on the planet, and like if I was even sneaking in like some single ply underneath my clothes and was literally cheating, I would still be 100 kilos off of Bryce's total. This is someone who 937 at 105, and now there's people going over that. Like it's just insane. So for me, when I compete in powerlifting, some people would wonder, well, why would you even get on the platform? And to me, it is entering the arena. It is saying, can I prep right? Can I stay healthy? Can I do everything so that these 3 lifts all show up on game day, and then someone else has to validate the refs that I've actually done this. I've made weight, I've lifted to standard, and I've shown that I have the skill and the will to put it together on this Saturday or what have you. And then it is all about just trying to get the most out of myself on that day that I can, and hopefully beat my previous best total and get a PR on the platform.
Exactly.
And to me, it seems like, and it's not that I don't care at all about placing higher at nationals, but it's just like, that's not the primary motivation. And it's easy for it not to be the primary motivation because I am very aware and I have no illusions about where I stand as a powerlifter. I'm solid like 80th percentile, which is great, but it is not what you need to be competitive. So I see that perspective in you, which I think is quite rare for someone who has the potential to be on the greatest of all time list, in my opinion, as a natural bodybuilder. I know that's not something that you may struggle to take that on, but that's just what I pick. So I'd love to hear your perspective. How do you maintain that balance between both being highly competitive, but not putting your chips in the actual competitive outcome?
For me, it's, I know what's important to me. And for me, it's always been family. Like, that's the most important aspect of my entire life. My wife and my kids.
Yeah.
If I mess up that, then I feel like a failure. Training, competing, lifting, those are things I enjoy, but not necessarily something that I tie emotionally to. I step on stage because of the feeling I get when I'm on stage. I'm there with my brothers, like people that went through it with me. They all know what it's like to get on stage and be dehydrated and feel like your bones are like, we all understand that feeling. And we're sharing the stage, happy, smiling, knowing that once we get our medal, it's over and we get to go eat and we get to enjoy that. And look, I achieved this physique without cheating. I achieved this physique without help. I did it the hard way. That to me is enough. A $5 plaque or medal or the opinions of other people saying you're the best, you're not the best, you lost because of this, I don't care. Because in my mind, that even since I was doing martial arts, a champion doesn't focus on other people. Champions focus on winning. I don't discuss others. I don't discuss, oh, what is he doing? Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
I go in, did I beat my last previous self? Yes, I did my job. And I want to beat him, not just by a little bit. I want to beat him by a mile.
Yeah.
That's the guy I'm competing against because I don't know what anybody else is doing. I don't know what the judges are thinking. I don't know. Dude, you know how many messages I got after Worlds? People saying, oh, you got robbed. I thought you won. I don't care. What am I going to do? Go fight someone? Like, that's your opinion. Opinions don't matter to facts. Like, I lost, and that's it. I don't care. Did I beat my previous self? Yes. Let's move forward. Let's see what we can do next year.
That's so interesting. And I think it comes from having spent a lot of time in individual sport and individual practice, because to kind of look at powerlifting, a lot of powerlifters had that same language circa 2015, 2016 and earlier. And then we started to see powerlifting's popularity rise. And especially in the United States, a lot of the best powerlifters were inherited from football. Like if we talk about, Taylor Atwood, he was just too short to be a really good football player. I mean, not to say he wasn't. I mean, this guy got a pro day, in the CFL, right? But but he's a 74 kilo, now 83 kilo lifter. Like, he's just not going to be top
Yep.
tier, and same thing with Russ Orhii. And then there's some legitimate, like, high level, 120 pluses, like your Ray Williams or your Jesus Olivares. And we look at, Texas powerlifting, because that's actually a high school sport, and it kind of emulates the development of sports in other places. And it's no surprise that we see all of these amazing folks who love the weight room or didn't have an avenue to keep going in football, but were incredibly strong. And now we see, like, oh, that's good genetics, And when you come from a team sport mentality, where ultimately you were saying, like, what am I going to do? Am I fight them? It's like, well, they kind of do, like, uh, like you're actively beating someone else. There's an offense, there's a defense, wherein, and they kind of construct that and bring it to powerlifting, and they talk about getting in each other's heads. And somebody meant like me, I'm like, you really have no power over me. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm totaling 600s, but as a coach, when I work with a high level lifter, if that speaks to them and that's their background and that's where they source motivation and makes them better, awesome. But I also remind those who are negatively impacted by it, like, listen, you need to be an anchor in a storm. You need to let nothing that anyone else does impact you, because frankly, on game day, it's all you. You're the one in the arena. Did you make weight? Did you get your cues right? Did you hit your squat? Did you hit your bench? Did you hit your deadlift? Nothing anybody else does matters. And the little things that will matter, let me take care of that. I know your lot number. I can shift your deadlift. We know your max. All you got to do is go out there and execute. And if you're in a tight battle, in the end, all you got to do is pull 3 deadlifts, bench 3 times and squat 3 times. You focus on that. And I think it seems like that is a much more deeply ingrained thing in you. So tell me a little bit more about your martial arts background. Were you ever involved in team sports, or how is this kind of perspective manifested?
So the only team sport I ever played was basketball, but that was elementary school. I don't really count that. But I'm a huge football fan. I've played football with a bunch of dudes, but mostly martial arts was the main thing that I did. And the mentality was that, I mean, as soon as they say go, you kill the opponent. And you see red. And I mean, I always tell the story, and it's not because I'm proud, but because I want to show the mindset that they teach in martial arts. I had to fight a girl once, and she was the first female to fight in our weight class with boys. I mean, it was, I guess it was a trend back then. She was so strong. She was beating up all the girls, and they wanted to put her in with the boys. And I remember when the coach said go, I one shot her in the head, and it was a knockout. I felt off, like it wasn't. It literally took 2 seconds, and she was on the ground. I had to turn around, and her coach was actually the referee, so he went immediately to help her. I felt terrible, but that was the mindset. It doesn't matter who's in front of you.
Yeah.
Go and kill. And for me, I'm not that type of person. I'm not the type of person that, oh, that's my target. Okay, I'm going to do everything I can to get to that person because now I'm fixated on that person.
Yeah.
My potential, and again, this is not something I say vocally to people. I mean, we're in a podcast format right now, so it's whatever. For me, my potential is limitless. I put it in my head that I am gonna surpass my best every single time I step on stage. That's not possible when I'm 55.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that, but it's so ingrained in my body that that's the only person I look at. Other people, oh, you have Doug Miller's arms, and you and Babacar were so close. Doesn't matter. That future self that I look at of myself blows everybody out of the water. That's the guy I want to be. So when I step on stage and somebody beats me, I'm like, all right, whatever. What do we do next year to get to that guy up there? And it's not, I don't want it to sound like cocky or be interpreted as, oh, he's so full of himself. That's that mental mindset that I have when I walk into the gym. That's the guy I see.
It doesn't sound cocky because your language is about being an idealized version of yourself. And even if,
Yes.
to go into, a bit of the distinction between what could be argued as facilitative or debilitative mindsets as athletes. There's an interesting distinction between perfectionist striving and perfectionist concerns. And this is kind of a cool area of research where you can find people with perfectionist tendencies, and broadly, it can lead to burnout and overtraining, but it's also present in high-level athletes. But when you try to separate these validated questionnaires into those different distinctions, and the distinction is, am I striving to achieve something from a place of looking upward, outward, and inward to reach this idealized version of self because I'm seeking the pursuit of excellence, which is a different but very related construct.
Yeah.
Or am I afraid of not being my best? Are there external pressures? Am I thinking about I got robbed and I hate losing and I want to prevent losing? Or am I striving towards winning? And you are such a clear example of someone who doesn't place a whole lot of value on losing. And if you do, it always just leads to, well, then what do I need to do to win? And it is, I think, an example of a very facilitative perspective. And it's the cool thing is that you are active. You're cognitively aware. Like you just stated, I know this isn't realistic, but that is what I embody and I channel in the moment when I go to the gym or when I step on stage. And I think a lot of people don't have that degree of agency or can't hold those two things to be true. They can't have a emotional drive while also having a cognitive understanding of something and hold them both at the same time. So I think that's actually quite impressive.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've done enough losing in life to know that it's not everything. And I've done enough winning in life to know that it's not everything.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and it always goes back to when I get home, do I have my family's love and respect? Oh, I do? I'm winning.
Yes.
Like, that's it. I won at life. I'm good. A trophy doesn't validate me. The opinions of a judge doesn't validate me. The opinions of followers doesn't validate me. I am who I am, and I'll go to the gym until I die because I enjoy the challenge of walking in and taking a step closer to that guy. That's it.
I love it.
There's no like magical. It's so simple for me, and I don't know. I mean, you articulate it a lot better than I do. It's just so simple. I wake up every day and I know the guy who's posing right now and winning world titles, and I just want to beat that guy.
I love it. I love the perspective, and I think it's the clear understanding of where your values are and where where you make meaning in life and how you look in the mirror and go, I've succeeded and I'm living the life that I care about and my values and my mission statement. It seems like it frees you to give your all to bodybuilding without, because there's no, when someone who has a really, really strong athletic identity, which can be a good and a bad thing, it's a double-edged sword. When they get hurt and they can't play their sport, it's not just the loss of their sport, it's the loss of who they are. And you see this a lot in young athletes because they don't yet have a family. Frankly, they're not even done fully cognitively forming their brain if they're in their teens and their 20s and early 20s even, based upon some recent research. And, they're still in college, right? If they're a U.S.-based athlete in many cases. So an ACL tear to someone who has really only had the dream of making the NFL and being the football player, that is a loss of future self, current self, meaning. And that can be disastrous, and the research shows that very clearly. But when you look at masters athletes, or when you look at athletes who don't have a strong athletic identity but compete at the highest level, it's not like they aren't training as hard, or it's not like they use that as an excuse to be less consistent. I think it frees them to do this thing that is very much intrinsically part of the human experience. If we think of, these modern domesticated versions of ourselves, the way I view it sometimes is, back when gender roles made a little more sense from a societal functional perspective, like someone's got to take care of the kids and we got to have 10 of them just to get 2 that live, and someone else has got to go get food. The hunters took hunting very seriously, ritualized it, You go through a rite of passage. This is almost ubiquitous across societies. You go out there and you're valued to be a good hunter. But the hunting has no meaning if it's not to feed the tribe, right?
Correct.
So, like it's your identity as a hunter is connected to something deeper. It's in service of a community. It's not the end all be all. And I think now that sport is kind of the ritualized version of many of these things that we used to have to do to survive, it's in our DNA for it to mean something. I get dangerously obsessive about bodybuilding, right? And I have to be self-aware because it is, I have a hyper-focus component. It's just in my DNA, and I can push too hard. I can put too much into it, and it's only come with age and finding where that limit is that I've learned to find balance. But what enables me to have a healthy relationship with the sport, and honestly, what made us start 3D Muscle Journey was being on the other side of that, because it's not necessary. So it's not as obviously connected to do something as silly as flexing in a Speedo to life. But what I've come to understand and understand myself better is that ultimately, and big shout out to Viktor Frankl, A Man's Search for Meaning. This is kind of a great way for someone to understand it and articulate it if they're interested, is we have to make meaning in life. And whether you're a sushi chef, a painter, a bodybuilder, a martial artist, a football player, you find something to pour your all into as a vehicle for personal growth, meaning, artistic, spiritual, emotional growth, connection, whatever works for you. And for me, intellectual, artistic, and competitive, it's all bodybuilding. Because what I love about bodybuilding, because I do have a background in martial arts, it was much more on the, I would say, art side of it than martial. Like I started at 5. And I learned traditional Okinawan martial arts, Ishinryu karate. I learned, I don't think we first started sparring until I'd been doing it for 8 years, and I was like a brown belt.
Wow.
It was not the sport form of martial arts. It was katas. It was very much more kind of, like Mr. Miyagi, if you want to put it to a more of a like an iconic cultural example. But that I had that discipline until we moved, and I did it until I was 12 or 13 from the age of 5. So for I think 9 years I did martial arts, and it never felt like sport, and I never really was connected to sport. So, but the kind of like the idea of this hero's journey through something and the discipline factor always spoke to me. And bodybuilding also connected to the fact that after martial arts, I got into hip hop. So I was a break dancer for a while, again, showing my age.
Oh, it's nice.
I did a little bit of emceeing as well. And the cool thing about hip hop is that whether you're DJing, graph writing, emceeing, or you're breakdancing, it's an art form, but it's always competitive, which I think just came from the roots of it being, a street discipline, right? And it's the city grind capitalist nature of 1980s in this city, from, a lot of people in low socioeconomic status in the time when being black and brown was even harder than it is now. It makes sense. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and it was especially at that time. So the blending of art and competition has always made sense to me, and I've loved it. Breakdance battles, and like getting in the cypher and it turning into two dudes ripping on each other, and afterwards they're boys.
The besties,
yeah. So but you just said some awful shit to each other. You look terrible. Your family is the worst, and you're fake, my man. So, but I rhymed it, so it's okay. But anyway, I've always loved competitive art, and I think as an academic, and even in my little dabbles in sports philosophy, I don't necessarily think that the two cannot meet, and someone can do it purely for their artistry. And there's many great bodybuilders who are respected not because of how well they place. Like Ed Corney was a very good bodybuilder, but people know Ed Corney because he was a masterful poser, right?
Correct.
And then there's someone like Frank Zane, who's a multi-time Mr. Olympia, but some people are much more interested in the aesthetics of his physique and the way he presented himself than the fact that he was an Olympia, right?
Yeah.
But then you have your Phil Heaths who like people like, dude, this, this is a win-win-win and never stop, right? Like that's he. So I think people can connect with bodybuilding in many different ways. You can be highly extrinsically motivated, interested in having the world title, wanting to get that Sandow, etc., and really just wanting to beat others. Or you can see it as an artistic expression, and this is me having a vehicle to, show my art, or anything in between, or a personal rite of passage. Like I think everyone connects to, and that's the thing. You're right, and what I love about natural bodybuilding, especially, is that more often than not, because people are selecting this unnecessarily hard pathway that also gets less visibility, less money, less promotion, and it came after bodybuilding was well established. When, especially in the pro ranks too, I've only previously saw this as a coach, and now in the last several years I've seen it as an athlete competing in the pros. Everyone who's been there has been in the game a while, most of the time. And they've pushed themselves really, really hard. It's, you have some just guys who, are just genetic freaks and they're there for the first time. But most of the time, it's a lot of dudes in their 30s and 40s who crush themselves and been crushing themselves for a decade. And they just want to be like, yo, hey guys, we did it. Let's go celebrate on stage together. And I think that's a beautiful thing and why I love the camaraderie. And I think it's because of the crucible we all go through to get on stage.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a long kind of intro, but that is something that really speaks to me. And it seems like while you may be viewed as like the genetic freak who just kind of trains hard and it works out for him, and I may be viewed as, the plucky underdog who uses his brain to compete against people who are, just meatheads. I think those are drastically like caricature versions of us that don't respect kind of the humanity and the similarities between many natural bodybuilders, especially who are kind of in it for the long haul.
I agree. And for me, speaking on that, when I see people that are less genetically blessed than I am, take a physique, maximize that physique, and get to a point that the average person can't get to me, that is more respectable than someone like myself who just stepped into the gym with 16-inch arms and lifted a freaking barbell and exploded 3 inch. Like, bodybuilding's not hard for me. And it's because I was blessed by my grandfather who just genetically was a god. But I don't think that I deserve the praise and adulation and all these, because it's not hard. It's not a thing that I consider to be difficult. When I see certain people start from 120 pounds and build up to 185 naturally, that's impressive. That's like, dude, you studied it. You applied it. You went against something that the deck was already stacked against you, and you still won. Like, that's awesome. I was dealt a pair of aces. Like, it's not hard to win. You were dealt a 7 deuce and somehow got me out of the game. Like, that's amazing to me. Again, that's just my own personal thing. I get inspired by people who I feel are doing something that I could never do. Because if I didn't have the genetics I have, I probably wouldn't be bodybuilding. I would probably be just a regular dad who doesn't spend 3 hours in the gym.
Oscar, honestly, I don't fully agree with your self-assessment, but I think that is such a facilitative mindset, and I think it is why you are going to be and already are one of the greats in the sport, because you apply that mindset to yourself. Like you're right. Maybe you wouldn't be a bodybuilder if you didn't have some talent, but you're in it now, and you are pushing yourself as hard as you can, and you're trying to reach the pinnacle because, like, you have the Rocky mentality and you appreciate that. I can't tell you, having been in the game a long time, how many people with incredible genetics are loath to admit it. How, and just don't have an objective view of where they're at. And, they're like, their view is, I've overcome so much. And it's not like they haven't worked hard. Don't get me wrong. Everybody who steps on a body stage is a hard worker relative to the norm, but they they view themselves as rocky when in fact they are absolutely not, right?
Well, I've seen this so
All
yeah,
the time,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and it's easier. It feels better, you know?
yeah,
And I think the fact that that pathway, that door is open for you anytime. And it's easy to feel like, oh, I worked hard. I only know my own experience and I've done well. So I must be working harder than other people because, genetics
yes,
are bullshit. That's for weak people to focus on. I think you can, you could do that, but you don't. And I think that's really
yeah,
respectable. Um, and, to me, I'm very grateful that I have been a coach, a researcher, and an athlete because sometimes people will be like, oh, like they'll either underplay everyone else and act like they're cheaters and be like, oh, I'm actually the pinnacle of natural bodybuilding, which is such a clear thing about them trying to make themselves feel better about their own natural
oh yeah,
talent. Or they will see me as this truly plucky underdog who has average genetics because they're probably following a lot of people with insane genetics because that's what, or on gear, or both, because that's what the
yeah,
social media gives them. And I think I have a relatively balanced view of like, listen, let's be frank. I would not be able to get a pro card and be reasonably have a chance at being competitive if I wasn't at least above average, right? But there are levels to what good
correct,
genetics. When I go to
yeah,
WNBF Worlds, it is a different playing field than when I get recruited for a resistance training study because
yeah,
like if you look at data on thousands of people, I look like I'm in the top tier 1%. But if you look at data on
correct.
hundreds of WNBF pro bodybuilders, 50th percentile, maybe 49th, something like that.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think your physique is awesome. Honestly.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
but I think a lot of people struggle with that. And it's because they tie their identity, they tie their self-worth, and they don't have a strong enough sense of self that they're looking for it from others. And of course, that's very common in bodybuilding. Obviously, there's a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of people who, at least at one point, were insecure who came into the sport. I think we can both be honest about that. Not everyone, by any means. Painting with broad brushstrokes. But I think it is if you want to know what a shark is, in my opinion, and I can say this very confidently, as someone who is trying to develop this mentality over time as an athlete, but knows what it takes from a coaching perspective because I can be more distant from it. It is someone who actually knows their own limits and is trying to redefine them, but doesn't pretend to ignore them and doesn't put on airs of like, oh, like I'm always just going to push it to the limit because that's operating out of a position of fear,
Yes.
Yeah. You
100%.
have to have that rationality to know what is my limits right now? What can I do? So that, because the shark in the water is calculated. He comes at people, he goes, all right, if I do this, this, and this, here's what I can realistically do. Not just got to push all your chips to the center, bro. Burn your boats and go in. Like you can do that if that happens to land you in the best spot. But ultimately, that's the 1% of the 1%. And for a
Yeah.
guy like me, I need to be very clear and calculated about how do I get every bit of blood out of this stone, and then where do I place that effort and time, and then what's a realistic outcome for me? Because if I go like, yeah, I'm going to win the heavyweight world title in WBF Worlds, I'm setting myself up for an unrealistic outcome. And I'm not saying that's never on the table. I do need to have some of that kind of like crazy optimism, but
Yeah.
I have to think of it from a stepping stone of let's see if I can get top 5. So all that is to say, the fact that you're able to recognize your talents and also really focus on the work is what truly breeds like generational champions. Because so many people, man, we've had applications come through for 3D Muscle Journey for since 2010. And sometimes we get really, really high level athletes who come to us and we see what their training and nutrition is. And we're just like, how? They're doing that and they look like that. Like, my God, imagine if, or the things that I hear athletes do on their diet. Well, yeah, I started 6 weeks out and, I'll be honest, between you and me, I had a binge on Wednesday before the show. I had two large pizzas and I'm like, wow. Like, if,
Yeah.
imagine if you tried, like, or if you knew the kind of effort that you could put forth and what that would accomplish. So that becomes less and less and less and less likely at the highest level. I think there's very few, say, WNBF overall world champions who can rest on their laurels to any significant degree. But the number of people who are high level, kind of like regional champs, or like in a smaller organization, they got their pro card and they just kind of stumbled into it. It's immense. And you combine drugs, social media with that, and you get a lot of people who can get away with things, and you are not one of those. And I want to just give you a lot of credit for that. For one, I think that that's quite rare and it's respectable. And I also want to say that, I love your mentality in the gym, even though you are not necessarily trying to do what most people would expect, what Dr. Helms would value, of being like scientifically optimal at all times, because I think you have the much more important big rocks in place.
I'll take that. It's funny when you were talking there, it brought me back to something I said to Sean Fury. I don't know if you know who he is. But I just did an interview with him, and he said he thought I was one of the best bodybuilders on the planet. And I told him I'm not. I'm just one of the luckiest. Because I really genuinely believe that my genetics are the reason I am where I am. Yeah, I work hard. Everybody does. But to work hard means very different things for very different people. My hard is not necessarily considered hard to a power lifter or a power builder. My hard is just above average amongst the people. Everybody's a lion amongst sheep in their circle. You put that lion with other lions, then you know what really hard is. And that's the mentality. I mean, while you were talking, I'm thinking of these people that have come, hey man, I work hard, I do this, I did. And I'm like, yeah, dude, your quads are just built to grow. That doesn't come from squatting 6 plates. That comes from you're just genetically blessed with good quads. I don't say that. I kind of let people have their moment. Because I really, everybody has their own idea of who they are. But I fully understand that. I fully understand that the gift that was given to me is the reason why I compete. I don't compete to look a certain way and force my body to change. I compete because I look the way I look. Like, I didn't want to step on stage. Had that guy not said anything to me in the bathroom, I still would be going to the same gym, lifting weights and doing absolutely nothing. But the idiot in me, as soon as he said that, I'm like, okay, cool, man, let's do it. And I ended up falling in love with just posing and the presence of being on stage. And again, I just always think back to what do my kids think when they see me on stage? And I know, like, I remember coming home from Worlds and my wife was telling me that my daughter was on the couch screaming for me. And that's
awesome.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if I'm the best bodybuilder in the world. To me, I'm the best bodybuilder with 4 kids and a wife and a mortgage, and that's enough for me.
Yeah.
In their minds, I'm the best, and that's all I care about. I compete because I look the way I look. Let's see how far we can go with it.
But that last piece is important. Let's see how far we can go with it. And I think because you're aware of the gifts you have and you respect them and what it means, and you also know that hard is subjective, and you use the other people who you're competing against at the highest level, or the people who motivate you. Maybe they're not at the highest level, but they've done something impressive with the cards they were dealt.
Correct.
You are respecting the gifts you have and taking them as far as you can. And that is something to be respected, because, like, is losing 11 pounds in 2 weeks a good idea? No. The fact that you can do it and did it, it speaks to your ability to grind. And that's the currency in bodybuilding that should be driving respect, my man. And and you got money in the bank regardless of your genetics. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. Do you mind if I share something that you posted on your story recently?
Yeah, go for
All
it.
right, I love this book. So this was on your story, and like I told you off air, it made me end up doing. I went off my program when I read this, and I trained more. All right, my training split doesn't have to make sense. My exercise selections aren't meant to be analyzed. My volume isn't meant to be duplicated. I post my workouts to provide transparency, not to promote imitation. If your first instinct is to question what I'm doing because you don't think it's optimal, then please enjoy your superior training style and let me enjoy lifting. I do this because I love bodybuilding. I love pushing my limits. I love that feeling of being completely destroyed by a brutal workout. I don't give a F about stepping on stage. My thrill comes from dominating 45 seconds. The salute emoji rant over. So that speaks to me so much because as much as I feel that I have to optimize everything, and I constantly analyze and monitor what I'm doing, and I read everything that it ever has or will be published on bodybuilding, and I also observe the sport. I read the history. There is, like I said, I've said this before, I turn over every stone, every rock, and every grain of sand to the best of my knowledge, and then I ask other people, hey, do you think I missed any sand? And I have coaches. I got a team around me. I talked to my wife about how did I stay in terms of my values and my humanity and as a husband, as a partner, and I still do it. Then I think as an educator, I won't sacrifice anything, but in the constraints of who I identify as Eric, I am maximizing bodybuilding to the best of my capability. But a key piece of that I think a lot of people lose when they're a little more analytical or a little more on the scientific side, especially if they're coming from it from a perfectionist concerns and what am I missing out on perspective, is that the engine behind all of that is passion and drive. And it's a small component of my program, not the entirety of it, but it's an essential component. I do things that get me friggin' motivated about the gym, and I step in there and I'm ready to kill every time. As an example, I wanted to see if under 83 kilos, I could pull 200 kilos for a triple conventional. And I'm not a good conventional puller. I'm much better built for sumo during this prep because that is actually a lifetime PR at any body weight for me. And I have not been training the conventional deadlift. And I know, like, listen, I think I've gotten a lot of size. I've done a tremendous amount of work on my posterior chain generally. Like, if I've really built the muscle I think I've built in my glutes, hams, lower back, and back in general, and I'm so much more muscular and I made this progress since 2023, I should be able to do a little bit of strength focus and hit a triple. And it's not like it's not building, my back. I'll just control the eccentric.
Yeah.
And back in August, I hit that 200 kilos for a triple, and then I went to do the rest of my workout. Is that optimal? Is that part of the of what is the best approach to a back biceps, hamstring? On paper, perhaps not. Maybe it would be better just to keep doing the RDLs. But for my soul, Oscar, hell yeah, that's optimal. And if I don't have those pieces in there that get me excited, that get that inner masochist and shark ready to smell blood and get in the water, I need enough of that to then direct myself to what is optimal. But without it, then why am I here? Right?
Yep.
So anyway, I would love to hear more of your perspective on your training because there is the assumption, you've got a lot of followers on Instagram, over 100,000. You put out great content. People are a fan of you and a fan of you as an athlete and obviously a fan of your mentality. You're public to some degree. You're on this podcast and, you're a high level competitor. So I think there's the assumption that just by sharing that it's advice or that it's you planting your flag in the ground and this is how you to train. And you got to imagine that I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility as a science communicator, a coach, a researcher, a representative, someone who's taken on some responsibility as being a leader in our space. Like, should I put the triple of deadlifts out there? Do I have to contextualize this? I mean, obviously I do. I've talked about it for 20 minutes just to help people understand, but that must be hard to know that that's the implicit assumption people have.
Yeah, and I get a lot of DMs. Anytime I post my workouts, bro, that's not optimal. You're ruining a Lamborghini by trying to go for a 1 rep max. It's like, I don't give a shit. My body, I don't care. Like, people get so tied into the how to get from point A to point B when we're all just taking different paths and we're all going to end up at point B anyway. Just for me, it's always been find what works for you and just do that a lot. The rep ranges, all that stuff. Yes, there's science behind it. And I take every little bit of science I can. I apply it to my workouts. I try it out. If it doesn't work for me, I drop it because I'm not like everybody else. I feel like science applies to a large percentage of the population, but there's always outliers. Maybe I'm an outlier when it comes to leg training, but I'm not when it comes to arm training. Maybe I'm an outlier with shoulder training, but not chest training. I try everything, and I only accept the things that work for me. And how do I know it works for me? The mirror will tell me within a month. Am I seeing different lines on my shoulders? Oh, okay, so I guess I'm doing lateral raises the right way or the right rep range. 40 reps is too much for people, but it works for me. I'll take it. And when I post my workouts, again, I don't do it, like you said, for people to follow. I don't do it because I want people to think that what I'm doing is correct. If anything, I'll be the first person to tell you, do not do what I'm doing. I trained my wife today. We didn't do anything that I normally do. I'm like, babe, all right, you're going to stick to between the 5 and 8 rep range. If you feel good, aim for 10, but you don't have to go past 10. Meanwhile, I'm freaking ripping 405 for like 12 to 15. Like my back hurts, everything. I'm just dying. Meanwhile, she's just doing her thing. Optimal form, everything's great. I understand that not everybody's the same. The people that train with me, they train their own way. We follow the same program, but they don't do the same reps that I do. They don't use the same form that I use. They don't stay there for 5 minutes figuring out their foot position and whether you feel your outer quad when you tilt out or in. They don't do any of that. That's more of a me thing because I love that. I want to change my body in a certain way where I feel like this thing that I just did worked for me. Try this out. Let me know if it works for you too. And if it doesn't, please throw it in the trash. It's not meant to be the end all be all. It's a guide. Right? You get directions, you get lost, just find your way back and just keep going. I'm not a messiah of workouts. Like, I don't care. Just information is information. Take the stuff that works. Everything else, just throw it away. There's stuff that I've seen that you've posted, that Steve, that Alberto have, and I try it and it doesn't work. I don't feel it. I don't feel anything between 8 to 10 reps. I don't feel leaning forward on the seated hamstring curl. I don't feel that. Maybe it works for other people though. That I don't go and comment, yeah, I tried this. This sucks. Sorry. It doesn't work. Like, I understand I'm not the only human being on the planet. Like, dude, I just feel like a lot of people take this stuff way too personal and they think that because it's science-based, that means that it has to work for everybody. And that's not the case. It's providing information to give you insight into things that might work for you, but definitely worked for the group that was tested. Apply it. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't, guess what? Try something else. It's not that crazy. That's how we move the sport forward.
Well said, sir. No, I couldn't agree with you more. And if there truly is an area where I think individual differences are probably most obvious and least disputable, it is in like exercise selection and execution. Because I mean, you can just look around. Like, I got some long ass tibias. I got some narrow shoulders. I have different range of motion, different joint structure than someone else. Like bodybuilding. It's a dog and pony show. Like the higher level you get, the more you see homogeneity in the skeletal structures, and but the human race generally, man, it's like we got Chihuahuas and Great Danes talking to each other on social media, acting like they should be training the same way, which makes a zero sense.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
No, I love it, and I think ultimately what you're describing is the scientific method in action. And,
Yeah,
that is something that I think people forget a lot is, um, the methods behind science are probably equally as important to people who are interested in applying science to their bodybuilding journey as the findings in the scientific studies themselves, which provide
hmm
kind of those broad brushstrokes, starting in the right ballpark. But then the refinement does need to come from the practice, the art of it.
correct.
Um, yeah, and I think there is just so much more art and style to bodybuilding training than people give credit for, because there is a very broad range of things that can result in hypertrophy. It's not a specific performance growing muscle tissue. It's like farming, and
hmm
to kind of carry that analogy out, a subsistence farmer in a savanna area and someone else who's doing, hydroponics on a space station, and someone else who's trying to make genetically engineered crops work in a large farming situation. They're all farming, but they're going to be using different soil composition, different feed, whatever. I'm not enough of a farmer to know what the hell I'm talking about, but I think people understand what I'm saying. And that that reality that we see in the research of, you can grow muscle with sets of 5, sets of 25. You can grow muscle with different exercise selection. It's not the same as, okay, what do I need to do to get a 1RM squat as high as possible? That narrows it so much, and you start to, like, you don't see people who go, no, I don't squat. Like if someone has a 2.5 or a higher times body weight squat, they squat sometimes, right? So,
Correct. Yeah.
but you can find bodybuilders,
Or 3 times,
exactly,
depending
right?
on who it is.
But you're going to find bodybuilders with tremendous glutes and quads who may never have a barbell on their back. And
Yep.
that bothers your sensibilities because you are dogmatically attached to something. That is a worthwhile reminder of maybe you shouldn't be dogmatically attached to things. So I love the perspective, man. I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you share. And again, it's such a rare thing for someone to have the degree of self-awareness you have, while having the gifts you have, and also having the drive and that Rocky-like mentality with the gifts you have, and also to be highly competitive while not being emotionally, or in terms of your self-worth, tied to the outcome, but tied to your deeper values. And I think it is something that people just need to see and be aware of, which is why I'm so glad you are open to coming on, because I think it's a much healthier approach to the sport. And I do want to thank you for sharing all that, both on the podcast, but in general, because I think it helps people understand the possibilities and how they can make bodybuilding something that is beneficial and something they can do in the long run without letting their insecurities or self-worth or competitive nature burn them out, which is so, so common, unfortunately, with the type of personalities who are attracted to this very, very challenging sport, that can fundamentally change your relationship with your body, food, and the people around you.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, that last prep. Jesus.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but 2026, man, we're coming back better than ever. I'm already pumped for it. I got 1 month to go, and I'm excited. I can't wait.
Wow, that's good, because I the question for me after this season, because I'm 1 week out from the mayhem, and I'm a few weeks after that I'm doing Worlds. It's a question of, do I take 1 or 2 years off? So I get to be a fan no matter what in 2026, and be cheering you on. I'm excited for that. So yeah, I just want to say, enjoy the rest of your off season. I know it's going to be finishing relatively soon. When do you plan to start your 2026 prep?
Early December. I need to get past my wife's birthday, December 4th, and then after that, it's like social media is going down, everything's going off, and it's just zoning in.
And he's coming.
And this is the lightest I've ever been in my off season, the strongest I've ever been in my off season, and arguably the biggest I've ever been in my off season. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Man.
He's coming, folks. You will need to watch. Oh, let's go. No, let's go. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I do honestly think that the best is yet to come for you. And I know that you believe that and thrive on that mentality, which means you'll manifest it. And I think you have quite the future in the sport. And it's an exciting time. Natural bodybuilding is growing. There's new athletes coming in. And there's going to be some true Clash of the Titans moments in the future, and you're going to be part of it.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I just want to open the floor to you. We've covered a lot of things, and I really appreciate your transparency, your honesty, and your camaraderie in this discussion. But I want to give you the floor. Are there any things that you feel we haven't covered, or things you want to say? Also, feel free to shout out anything you want. I know I think people benefit from following you. So if you want to share your Instagram or anything else, please feel free.
Instagram is th3_professor. Yeah, just like that. I couldn't put the. So yes, it's th3. Hate me for it. Honestly, I like having open discussions like this because it's not something that I do often. I don't like doing podcasts, believe it or not. I get invited by bodybuilders, like people that actually have gone through it. And I feel like it's almost a disservice to not participate. The longevity podcast that I did with Kenny, he's also trying to push the sport forward.
Yes.
That's my thing. Anything that pushes natural bodybuilding forward, where that one kid right now who has crazy arms in 7th grade is watching and looking and thinking, maybe I can do something with it. Yes, you can. I was that kid. I've always been that kid. And for me, it's about that. It's about someone in the audience sitting down and looking at people like us and saying, I think I can do that. And then they become to be the greatest of all time. And that's going to be a changing thing. Humanity's only evolving and we're only going to get better. And I don't know, next year it might be me. The following year it might be someone else. I don't get tied to any of that because I know that we're moving the sport forward and everybody wins when that happens. So yeah, open discussions like this are awesome. I don't really have a lot of questions. I don't really have a lot to say, but I just appreciate you taking the time to sit with me. I love your stuff. I love your perspective. I love how you communicate. That you guys are awesome, man. Like, I can't even express that enough. You guys, what you do for the sport and what you do for athletes, I couldn't do, and I'm a huge fan. Huge fan. I was geeking when I met Alberto at Worlds. So I'm like, dude, and he's like, oh, what you're gonna do for the sport is great. And I'm like, what? Like, do you know who you are? But yeah, man, I'm a huge fan. I love all you guys. You guys are awesome.
Dude, it's an honor to hear that, and I think sometimes people are surprised just how much of a fan of natural bodybuilding I am, more than anything else, because it blows my mind when I see like, what, Oscar's a fan of me, you know? So, yeah, no.
Yeah, man, I watch your training. I see what you
let
do.
You go, and you let me know if I ever say I went to failure and I didn't, you know, like keep.
I would never be that
keep
guy.
Keep your boy honest. I can handle it. You know,
I could tell by the face, man. I could tell when you got to fail.
Yeah. Well, let's we'll keep at it, my friend. I appreciate that. The respect is mutual. And I just want to say thank you again for coming on. Iron Cult, thank you so much for joining us on this interview. Definitely make sure to give Professor the follow. In all seriousness, make sure you stay tuned for the WNBF competitive season in 2026 because I know it will be a sight to behold. I'll be watching. And once again, thank you for listening. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. If you're really interested in digging into not only the science, but also supporting the podcast, check out massresearchreview.com. And for all your lifting needs, use the code MRR10 over at our colleagues and good friend David Tate's spot over at Elite FTS. And we will catch you next time in Iron Culture.